let's have ourselves a day here. Let's have ourselves an evening
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
fire it up. Fire it up. I love it. I want a video of like a Stone Cold if you win. If you back to back, that deserves a Stone Cold celebration
Oh, the
somewhere.
shirt the shirt's coming off, the beer's going on. It's going to be good.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome into Monkey Knife Fight's College Football National Championship Preview Show. I'm Dan Watkins. Joining me, as always, the great John McKechnie of Rotowire.com. John, if you would be so kind, you're in Los Angeles today. Set the scene for us. How is it out there?
As you might be able to tell from this background, it's like, is he in some sort of Soviet prison? It's actually cold and rainy out here, which
Really?
yeah, I think they're getting their rain for the year over these next 2 days or something crazy like that. So it's a tad dour, but even still, you can feel the electricity in the air. It's good to be here. I love coming out to Southern California. Never a bad time of year to be out here, especially January. Even on their bad days, it's still pretty good. So, it's exciting. And to be honest with you, I've felt, and it's a small sample because I got in late last night, but I feel like the frogs are showing out. Maybe a little bit more than people would have thought. It's a smaller college, private school, all that, but they are pumped. In the airport, I got some "Go Frogs" directed at me, and I didn't really take it personally. I respect it, but it got me a little bit more fired up than I was expecting to, as opposed to like running into a Bama fan last year.
So I was going to ask you, yeah, any airport interactions? Have you witnessed they do the thing yet? Has that happened yet?
Yes, a bro at my connecting flight saw that my buddy and I were wearing Georgia stuff, and he's like, "Go Frogs, man!" I don't even know if he wasn't even wearing any TCU stuff. I guess he just either is a troll or like a hidden TCU fan. But either way, got a couple of these tossed my way for sure.
Maybe he's been literally hypnotized by the hypnotoad, which it seems like all of America is right now.
That's true. He was wearing like a drug rug, so I mean, I could see it.
Very good, very good. How does LA compare to Indianapolis as a host city? What are you liking more so far? I know you had a pretty epic time in Indy last year.
Yeah, Indy was crazy. Like Indy famously, it's set up in a way to host these type of events, right? Like they have the stadium right in the middle of the city. They have tons of bars and restaurants like all around it, right in walking distance. SoFi, they didn't even say that they were going to allow tailgating until Friday when there was like a public outcry that they were being lame about it. LA is a lot more sprawled out, so I feel like there's going to be pockets of town that are decidedly Georgia, pockets of town that are decidedly TCU. Some of my friends were out at the Santa Monica Pier yesterday. They said that it was all frogs over there, frog infestation, just like the Bible over there. So yeah, I'm still kind of getting the feel for it. I will have more direct reports on my social media as the day unfolds, as we get out into the city and start seeing what we see.
Very good, very good. So tailgating is allowed. I know that was a big thing going into the week. I know there were some politicians, some very high-profile politicians tweeting about it. That might have been a parody account that might have started that all off. But good to hear that there is some tailgating. When are you going to a tailgate? You going right in? What's your move today?
I think we're gonna find somewhere to post up a little bit beforehand, and then head over towards the stadium lots and do a proper tailgate. I believe it is the plan. So if this is out on time, I'll be in the orange lots. Come say hey.
Very good. All right. So let's get right into it. Number one, Georgia, favored by 13 points, maybe 12 and a half. It's kind of been bouncing back and forth throughout the morning. Number three, TCU, the over under is 63 in this one. As we set the table here, Georgia is the biggest favorite in the national title game in the past 24 years. I could only find spreads going back to 1999, but this is the biggest one since then. It's just the third time that we've had a double-digit point spread in the national championship game. Those heavy favorites, John, don't want to put a little damper on your parade. Just 1-2 straight up. The only one that covered was Alabama in 2012, but I blocked that game out of my mind. We're not going to talk about it. We're going to move on. We're going to put the spotlight back on you here and move on. So any concern that the public is disrespecting the Frogs going into tonight?
Well, it's a big number for Georgia to cover, and I think you can definitely see an outcome where Georgia does cover that spread. If they go full bully ball and they get an early lead and they start to lean on TCU, TCU gets a little bit out of their rhythm, gets a little bit desperate early. The spotlight pretty big, although they punch back great against Michigan, so I'm not counting on that happening. But you can see the possibility for that type of outcome to happen. But my concern is that Georgia, their run defense is such that TCU is just not going to bother, and they're just going to keep taking deep shots. And based on what we've seen these last two games against pretty explosive passing games, whether it's LSU or of course Ohio State, there's talent in the Georgia secondary, but they're not playing particularly well right now. And when you have guys like Quentin Johnson, Darius Davis, one of the fastest players in college football, Tay Barber, Savion Williams, like that's a lot to contend with. That's depth and talent. So there's a chance here that TCU really, gives Georgia all it can handle and even wins this game. And I think another big key for this one is Duggan, his ability to extend plays with his legs. He's really mobile, smart runner, makes the right decision to pull the ball down and run. And mobile quarterbacks have flustered the Georgia defense in the past. I could see that happening again.
So I got like a brainiac idea here for Georgia. First drive of the game, let's say Georgia's driving down the field. They're in a first and goal to go situation. You have a chance to, go up by a touchdown right away on the Frogs, make them chase early. Don't call the Philly special when you're within the 5-yard line. How does that sound?
I would be, if Kirby Smart took a page out of the Harbaugh book for that one, I would officially be extremely worried.
All right, very good. Let's get right into the matchups and the contests here on MKF. Let's start with Max Duggan. 240.5 passing yards is his more or less. 9 of 13 games, when he's played the full game, he has hit this number, but he had just 225 yards against Michigan last week. His completion percentage, John, has taken a hit the past couple weeks. Just 50% of his passes he's completed in the last 2 games. Georgia, though, they're ranked 65th against the pass, allowing 225 yards per game. And they've shown the past couple games that they can be thrown on. C.J. Stroud finished with 348, and then Garrett Nussmeier with 294 in the SEC championship game. How do you feel about Duggan tonight?
I like the more on this one. I really think that TCU is just going to come out swinging. So like you said, Duggan, his completion rate, just hovering around 50% over those last 2 games, but he's gotten it done, thrown, I think, 3 touchdowns in that span, thrown a couple of interceptions as well. I think just as many picks as touchdowns. But I think that basically we're going to see a lot of balls hit the dirt this evening, but I think when he does connect, it's going to be for chunk yardage type of plays. There's a busted coverage. We know that Darius Davis or Quentin Johnson can go to the house. So I think that the yards after the catch and like the downfield throws are going to carry Duggan to the more here.
Yeah, I like that. I like the more on his fantasy prop too. It's 20.5. I think the only shot that TCU really has tonight is for Max Duggan to go full Vince Young in this game and literally drag them to the national championship. And we saw that he pretty much did that against Michigan. He ran for over 100. He ran for over 100 yards in that game, right? He's going to have to, I think he's going to have to run for at least 50 tonight. And that's a good chunk of fantasy points right there.
Yeah. Love the fantasy prop for Duggan tonight. I'm totally with you on that. I think that, with the mobility, with him basically being their best rushing threat this evening, I think he's going to lead the Horned Frogs in rushing tonight. I think that Kendre Miller's injury is such that he's going to be limited. And Amari DeMercado, kind of came out of nowhere against Michigan. He's not going to sneak up on Georgia. So I think Duggan's going to have to carry that ground game.
All right. How about Stetson Bennett? 275.5 passing yards is his more or less. 8 of 14 games he's thrown for the more on this number, including a monster 398 yards against Ohio State in the Peach Bowl. TCU ranks 92nd against the pass. J.J. McCarthy just threw for 343 on them, but he was just the second quarterback to go over that number on TCU, Tanner Mordecai being the other. And then there's also this little factor tonight of this Stetson Bennett becoming immortal and a college football great, one of the all-time greats tonight. That is ESPN's homepage right now, by the way.
Oh, that is going to make people very mad. For as wild and awesome as the story of Stetson Bennett has, people really don't seem to like that guy too much nationally. It seems like to me. But either way, as it comes to whether he's going to throw for over 275 yards, it really comes down to, do you think TCU pushes Georgia enough to where they have to throw a lot? And I think yes. So therefore, I'm taking the more.
I think a little bit of the Stetson Bennett hate I think is also It's kind of sparked up this past weekend. I think a little bit of his press conference. It was a yesterday or this morning. I think caught some people maybe the wrong way when he was. He kind of played the nobody believed in us card again, which I don't know
Oh,
really if you can be playing that anymore, dude. You are a Heisman Trophy
yeah,
finalist.
we're past that.
We were expecting you to be here tonight. You have not shocked anybody. You've played very well. I think you've played better than most people were expecting. I don't think anyone was thinking that Stetson Bennett was going to be a Heisman finalist going into this season, but I don't think you can play that no one believed in us card either.
No, especially not when you're playing against TCU. Like they were plus 23,000 before the season started to win the national championship. So like 230 to 1 odds. Those were worse odds than Auburn.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, ESPN. I saw SportsCenter last week threw up like the graphic of like the equivalent of TCU right now in every other sport. And there was just it was like the Washington Nationals. Maybe the Rockies were on there for like all the teams that like the betting odds would be the same for them to reach the World Series next year as TCU making the Natty tonight. All right, Kendre Miller, TCU's running back, 78.5 rushing yards is his line here. John, this seems like the play of the night for me to hit the less on this. He's questionable. He's 50-50. If he even goes tonight, he doesn't even know if he's going to suit up. He reached 79 yards in 9 of 14 games this season, but Georgia ranks second against the run. They're allowing just 80 yards per game total. They don't allow anyone to reach this number on them, and I don't think a banged-up Kendre Miller has any shot of getting there tonight.
No, they're not going to be able to move the front seven. If Kendre Miller was at 100%, I would still like the less. But with him being a little bit limited here, oh man, hammer this. I feel like this is the layup of the night, which of course ultimately makes you feel queasy, but still I'm taking less here. I would I would have to get down into the 50s to start thinking about the more.
Yeah, same here. I think even less, like 45 probably for Kendre Miller with his knee right now. But what about Amari DeMarcado? We don't have him on MKF right now, excuse me. But he did run for 150 yards against Michigan last week, and he's from Inglewood, hometown kid tonight in the national championship game.
Okay, that scares me a little bit. That second factor, the hometown home cooking. But still, Georgia's run defense is so good, and I just think the TCU is going to get away from like the conventional run game. I think most of their rushes will be Duggan designed runs or scrambles. So I just don't think that there's going to be enough volume, and I also just don't think he's going to be overly efficient. I think last week, I don't mean to bang on him, but I think that it is a little bit fluky to run that well on Michigan.
All right, on the other side, let's play Georgia running back roulette. John, spin the wheel for us. Tell us who we're playing tonight.
I love Kenny McIntosh tonight. 65 and a half, like we rarely see him get, much into the double digits as far as carries are concerned. But I think tonight Georgia's going to try to play ball control. Last week against Ohio State, he only had 5 rushes, but, they went for a lot of yards. I believe he cleared this number last week on just 5 carries. I think that the volume is going to tick back up. I think that Georgia wants to keep TCU's offense on the sideline as much as possible. How do you do that? You run the ball, and therefore I think that McIntosh is gonna clear this. I think that Georgia as a team, got away from it a little bit last week. Again, I think 26 combined rushing attempts last week. Their average is 36. I think we see them closer to that season average tonight, running it 30 plus times, and McIntosh leading that pack. So I'm taking the more.
All right, very good. How about Quentin Johnston? 85 and a half receiving yards on MKF. That's his line. He's reached 86 in just 4 games this year, but it just so happens that he has back-to-back games with 130 plus heading into this one. Georgia has allowed multiple 100-yard wide receivers in each of the last 2 games. Quentin Johnston, his stock is surging. We talked about it last week that he could be wide receiver 1 taken in the upcoming NFL draft, and he seems to be living up to that hype right now as we head into the national championship tonight. How do you feel about him?
I think I'm taking the less here. I think the TCU is going to have to find someone else to really move the offense down the field. I think that Johnston, great player, amazing talent, but I think that Ringo is a particularly bad matchup for him because Quentin Johnston, like he's very reliant. I know he was talking during the media availability how he kind of came up as more modeling his game after smaller slot receivers, and he didn't hit his growth spurt until a little bit later on. But the fact of the matter is, I don't really see a whole lot of Tavon Austin in current day Quentin Johnson. I think he's more of like just a bully. He's bigger than you. He's faster than you. But a lot of the times, Keely Ringo just as fast, just as big. So I think that they are going to lock horns this evening. And I think that we're going to see Johnston have a good game, but I'm taking less than 85.
All right, and let's finish up with Brock Bowers here. 60.5 receiving yards. He's reached this number in 6 of 14 games, but he has in each of the last 2. For Georgia, it really comes down to big spot. They know who their guy is that they're going to.
Right, exactly. So he is just such a huge part of this passing game, especially with Ladd McConkey being, less than 100% right now. A.D. Mitchell looking good last week, I think, is really encouraging for this passing game. But Bowers is still the guy as far as Georgia's passing attack goes. So I'm going to take the more on this one at 60.5.
All right, let's talk a couple prop bets here. Any of the props are jumping out to you? I really like TCU first half at plus 7.5. I'm probably going to hammer that tonight. Might even drive up to New Hampshire to go do it. That's how strongly I feel about that. But what about anytime touchdown scores? A couple that are jumping out to me. Max Duggan plus 120. He's got 4 touchdowns in the last 5 games. We know they like to hammer him once they get inside the 10-yard line. A.D. Mitchell at plus 102. That's even money. Both those not too shabby.
Yes, I really like the A.D. Mitchell call. I think Duggan's a strong one as well, especially at those odds. I think Kendall Milton for a little bit of those longer shots. He's plus 230. I think that he's someone that, he's 6 foot, he's 220 pounds. They used him in the red zone last week against Ohio State, and he punched it in. I think that he's the guy that Georgia looks to once they get in close. So I think Kendall Milton's a really interesting one. And then a much longer shot, but someone that you have to definitely consider is Arian Smith. He's Georgia's speed demon. He is the Darius Davis of Georgia's offense. He has 11 career catches, so he might not, pop off the screen when you're looking at player statistics. But yeah, I think he's averaging like 30 yards a catch, over that sample. I mean, if he catches it, it's a big play. We saw it against Ohio State. We've seen it at other times over these last couple of seasons. He's been injured a lot, but he's healthy now. Again, with Ladd McConkey being a little bit dinged up, I feel like he's going to have a bigger role tonight. I think we're going to see him get 3-4 targets, and you just need one of them for him. He can score from anywhere on the field. So I like Arian Smith as a bit of my long shot.
All right, very good. Oh, we actually have a bonus MKF line for this week, and it's been set courtesy of our good friend Nick Whalen. More or less 13.5 beers for John McKechnie tonight.
So on the Rotowire betting podcast, Whalen asked me to set my line, and I'm talking about the beers I'm consuming for the company I work for. So I set it perilously low. I set it like 5.5. Okay. Take that to the bank right away. 13.5. I think that becomes the more true Vegas 50-50. You know what? Give me the more, man. Let's have ourselves a day here. Let's have ourselves an evening as well.
Fire it up. I love it. I want a video of like a Stone Cold. If you win, if you back to back, that deserves a Stone Cold celebration. Somewhere.
Oh, the shirt's coming off, the beer's going on. It's going to be good.
All right. So prediction time, John. Are we throwing around the D word at the end of the night tonight?
I think we're gonna be throwing it around. I don't know if it's official yet. If you win 2 in a row, like that's obviously as good as you can do in a 2-year sample.
No one's done it in the playoff era.
That's right. So they could be the first. I think that, I think they would need one more in the next 3 years to be a dynasty if they were to win tonight. So they will definitely be on the right track, but I wouldn't consider them a dynasty just yet if they were to pull this off this evening.
All right. Yeah, I like Georgia to win. I'm going to go Georgia 41, TCU 33. Give me the over. TCU does cover, though. They're going to hang in there and keep this one close. The more important question for you, John, are you ready to embrace the role of villain if Georgia wins tonight? You're no longer this fun anti-Alabama story. If Georgia wins tonight, America is going to be quoting Tony Montana when they see you and go, there goes the bad guy.
Who's the bad guy? But I think I am. That's not really my nature so often. And for my entire Georgia rooting life, I've been like, oh, I hate Alabama. Look at them. They're jerks. They always win. And that now if Georgia becomes that type of deal, I could see myself taking a heel turn. It'd be fine.
All right. Very good. Okay, that's going to do it for us. So everybody say goodnight to the bad guy. Georgia, TCU tonight. Enjoy. Good luck in all your contests, and we'll be talking to you down the road here on MKF.